Greetings, salutations. Welcome to the Flying Focus 27th Busiversary. My name is PC Peri and I helped co-found the Flying Focus Video Collective in 1991.
And I'm Barb Greene, and I've been with Flying Focus since 1995. Now that it's 2018, that means it's been 27 years since the group started producing this show at Open Signal. Back then it was Portland Community Media.
We created our first shows during the so-called Gulf War, also known as the Massacre in the Middle East. Overall, we've created more than 900 programs which feature speakers, forums, protests, and things you don't always see on pay-to-play media.
Some of the grassroots topics we cover include war and peace, animal rights, economic, social, and environmental justice.
We use the Busiversary to get in front of the cameras and share what's important to make these videos, not just for us, but for you and everybody.
Looking back at this past year, we'll share clips from 24 episodes of the weekly Flying Focus Video Bus, which made up 14 unique programs produced between November 2017 and October 2018.
I recorded 11 of these shows, coached or supported others during the recording of their 3 productions. Now Barb is going to give the contact information that will come up a few times during the show. So grab something to write with and write on.
Right. If you want to be a part of what we do, call us at 503-239-7456 or 503-321-5051 or write us at ffvc@flyingfocus.org. Cable access exists because the airwaves belong to the people, at least for now. So help us keep making important videos to share with the community. Now let's get to the clips.
We have Barb Greene here in the seat, and she's going to tell us about Martin Luther King, or what was it called?
Well, we called the show People of the Dream Celebrate Martin Luther King. It was the 50th anniversary of his assassination. There were a lot of people involved. There was a march that started downtown and went to the convention center. So in this clip you'll see a little bit of people marching and then a few of the many speakers. There were quite a few people speaking there that day.
Right, I remember that.
Very inspiring.
Let's take a look.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
We are here to say that you can kill the dreamer, but you never can kill the dream. The dream of brotherhood and sisterhood, the dream of a new humanity, the dream of an end to poverty, a dream of an end to war and to peace, a dream that everybody will have the roof over their head and food and clothing and shelter. The dream that racism and white supremacy will be put to an end. That dream shall never die. And so we are keepers of the dream. Turn to your neighbor and say, I am a keeper of the dream. I am a keeper of the dream.
Dr. King would want us to live his faith, to defeat racism, to oppose war, and to combat poverty. We speak out for vigorous and positive action to stop the escalation of war, of hate crimes, and violence directed towards all vulnerable communities, especially towards communities of color, towards immigrants, refugees, the LGBTQ community, and minority religions. And we stand with you all today. And we speak out for vigorous and positive action to confront all forms of racism, especially in our institutions, in prisons, in employment opportunities, in education, and in our religious institutions. With all of those of us who have white privilege must confess it, we must confront it, and we must repent of the appalling silence of good people.
Fraud and Justice. That's something I taped at the Senior Center in Hollywood District. Barb, how did that turn out?
Turned out very well. There was a lot of information there that I didn't know about. I mean, it was kind of geared towards why scammers target the elderly, but the information was really good for everyone.
Right.
So there's, in these clips, there's a little bit about phones and a little bit about cybercurrency, which is good for people to know.
How many of you have gotten a phone call from Rachel or Jeff at Cardholder Services? The robot that says right away that he or she can lower your credit card interest payment. Yeah, a lot of people have gotten that phone call. So immediately after the statement about how they can lower your credit card interest rate, the robot says, press 1 if you want to be removed from this list. How many of you would press 1? You want off that list. So just by pressing 1, Rachel from Cardholder Services knows you're home during the day, because she almost exclusively calls seniors who are home during the day. You answer the phone, you listen to the message, and you engage. So that makes you the perfect potential victim. All of that, just by pressing 1, gets your name off of that list. Rachel takes your name off of that list, and she sells it to 200, 600, 2,000 other buddies of hers. So just by pressing 1, your calls actually go up. So that is why, if you cannot just follow the advice of just not even answering your phone, you have to just hang up. You can't press 1, you can't blow a whistle, you can't talk German, you can't put the phone in front of the TV, you just have to hang up the phone.
You probably heard about cyber currencies, Bitcoin, things like that. Stay away from it. It's a hotbed for criminal activity and money laundering, and the moment, if you want to dabble, know what you're doing and make sure you have a super high-tech machine, but you should be very computer savvy if you're going to get into cryptocurrencies. Because once you get into that, you have painted a target on your back, because that is the hottest thing right now for hackers, is they want to do this thing called cyber jacking, where they'll jack your computer to steal your coin, and you can't get that back. It's not regulated, it's not FDIC protected or anything, and sometimes they'll just take advantage of your machine if it's vulnerable to go and do cyber mining, cyber currency mining, where they turn your device into basically more computer power for them.
Green burial is the topic now, and we're going to look at what's involved in it. Do you remember how the edit went? How did the content look?
Yeah, it was very interesting. This is a program for people who care about the earth, care about our environment, and have been, recycling and changing their light bulbs and trying to make the world a better place, and want to continue doing that after they're dead.
Recycling themselves.
Exactly, in a way that's good for the earth.
Good.
If somebody's looking to have a natural burial, they're looking to do something where they're most likely not going to be embalmed. And the reason why I say that is most cemeteries don't need you to be embalmed. That isn't a real reality. Just people sometimes think that's what has to happen. So a natural burial has somebody who doesn't have the chemical preserves in their body. They've also chosen a burial container which isn't metal. And if it is made out of wood, it's made out of non-toxic glue, probably hardwood which isn't finished, probably a kind of a softer wood versus the high end. We're looking at the cherries, the mahoganies, and things that have been processed. No metal on the casket. And then there isn't some sort of a burial liner. A lot of cemeteries want you to have a concrete grave liner, or they want you to have some sort of a polypropylene liner to put the casket inside. And if you're going to do something natural, those elements aren't part of it. So traditional cremation has always been something which is in a retort or an afterburner, and that's with the flame, and that's with high heat, and that's almost like the burning of the body. There's something now which is actually a method of disposition and legal in several states, and it has several names. It's called water resumation, or it's called alkaline hydrolysis. It's also called aqua cremation. It's really whatever name you're comfortable with. And that is agitation, and it's water. And rather than chemical, we use some just hydrolysis for that and some alkaline. And here locally in Oregon, we do have one person who's doing that, and that's a funeral home down in the Roseburg area. And what you would do if you passed away in Portland is you would find a local provider here, and they would go ahead and contract with that funeral home and make that happen for you. You also could drive your loved one down to Roseburg, wait for the process to happen, and drive back. That's another option as well. There is a local area here in Portland that's going to open that up. It's a building which is not technically a funeral home, so again, you would need to contract through a funeral provider to go ahead and have them use that for you. But yes, that should be coming here, established in the summer of 2018. We should have somebody locally who can take care of that for you.
This is about the environmental topic again. This has to do with science and Earth Day.
Right. So again, for people who care about the environment,
Right.
And are concerned about what the current administration is doing
Or not.
doing for the environment. So there were a lot of people out
Yeah.
talking about some of the, in these clips you're going to see some interesting people doing things that I'd never heard of.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
They enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So what this is a celebration of science, and hopefully it's going to be a call to action to people to become more engaged and involved in the everyday science around us.
Compressed air.
Yeah, this runs on compressed air.
What's your range?
I won't know until I do a high pressure test with a high pressure tank. I'm still right now working with a low pressure tank while I'm waiting for a tighter valve block to be made. This is my invention, is this rotary valve. It creates a motor out of 2 double action pistons, and it makes for a lower cost motor than a gas or electric. So my goal is to share this technology with everybody and inspire everybody to build air-powered machines.
Does this run on the low power air now, or is it?
Well, I've been using it a lot. It might. I don't know if I want to put it on camera with 25 PSI, but I'll try. Oh, yeah, see, it's not very exciting with that. It's showing that it works.
Yeah.
But with 200 PSI, or about 10 times that much energy, it'll actually push me from a dead standstill.
Oh, you're just out of air?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been using it. I just put a low pressure tank on it, and I've been out here for a couple hours.
How much pressure will that hold?
This one was safety tested in the 80s to 500 PSI. But so pretty much anything I can get from a regular compressor. Like the bike shop will give me 125, Jiffy Lube will give me 150. All of that's well within the range of this tank.
If you had a diver's tank.
I have a backpack firefighter's tanks, or what are the Scott air packs that actually snap inside of this. This high pressure knob goes onto the high pressure tanks. I already have the high pressure tank in my van. But it costs me money to fill that tank.
Yeah.
Where this, I can get it filled for nothing.
So what I really want to talk about is something called biochar. Have you heard of it?
Biochar. I have.
Okay, so I get to start from the beginning.
Okay.
So basically it's a form of charcoal, and you make it in a special kiln or stove, or you can make it in the ground. And it's produced in high heat, low oxygen environments. And it's super porous, and it can hold on to nutrients, and it can hold on to microorganisms. And it sequesters carbon in the soil for thousands of years, so it can reverse climate change. So I make a whole bunch of this stuff in my backyard, and I run workshops in my backyard to help inspire people to also sequester carbon while you're cooking your food.
Hello everyone, I'm Allen Evans, and with me is Stephen Roberts. Together, we worked up a show this year entitled Factory Farming, the Climate Diet Connection. In April of this year at Portland State University, we recorded a panel of speakers from the Factory Farming Awareness Coalition, who brought to light an astonishing relationship between what we eat and our climate. So, Stephen, what did you think about the topic?
You know, Alan, it's not something we would normally make a connection between what we eat daily and climate. So as I listened to the panel there, you know, it was like an aha moment. Everything they said began to make sense, and it kind of raises your consciousness about what you consume daily as food and how it might affect the environment and the climate.
Americans eat a lot of meat. Most of us are unaware of what it takes to produce all that meat and what the consequences are for our environment and our climate. This show can raise your awareness. Then you will know there is something you can do to save the planet. That something is eat less meat. Here are some clips from the show.
So I'm going to talk about some of the basics of the connection between sustainability and our food choices. National Geographic summed it up really well. They said, when we think about threats to the environment, we tend to picture cars and smokestacks, not dinner. But the truth is, our need for food poses one of the biggest dangers to the planet. And within the food sector, there's one area in particular that has a really outsized impact, and that is animal agriculture. There are over 9 billion animals raised and killed for food every single year in the United States alone. And that's just land animals, that's not even counting fish. There are actually more farmed animals bred and killed for food every year in the United States than there are people on the entire planet. And this is really where most of the environmental problems stem from. It's the sheer number of animals that it takes for 300 million plus Americans to eat meat every day, sometimes with every single meal. That requires these billions and billions of living, breathing, eating, pooping animals. And there was this amazing study that came out last year that found that if Americans just ate beans instead of beef, we could immediately realize about 50 to 75% of our greenhouse gas reduction targets for the year 2020.
If we keep going in the trajectory that we are going overall with our global greenhouse gas emissions, then about a third of life on Earth, wild plant and animal species, will be committed to extinction by mid-century. But I like this graph because it shows kind of the scope of the problem that we're looking at. And this represents the biomass of humans and our livestock and wild land animals. So if you were to put all the humans on Earth on one side of the scale, plus all of the livestock that we take with us everywhere, it's 425 million tons. When you put all the wild land vertebrates, from mice to elephants, everything in between, they only weigh half as much as just the chickens we're raising for food.
Something that you can do today. This challenge is happening. Has anybody heard, how many people have heard of the Eco Challenge? So this is our other program, and it's an online program, and it's using a social and fun way for us to take action and actually see the impact of the actions that we are taking. So this is a challenge. People create teams. You earn points for taking action.
Hi, I'm Dan Handelman. I helped co-found Flying Focus in 1991. Once again, although I produced 5 programs this year, I was part of editing all 14 shows. This is the first year in a while where I did not record any of the episodes. Various members of the collective take part in production, which is part of how we have kept going so long. The first show we're going to see was taped by Alan, who you just heard from, and PC did the interviews. They went down to a Portland protest against the Dakota Access Pipeline in November 2016, which was part of a national day of action. Even though we didn't get the information produced until 16 months later, and the pipeline was able to be built once President Trump took office, the general concerns still resonate today. You'll hear from a number of people, many of whom are Native American, and see part of the march that took the protest from the Army Corps of Engineers building to Waterfront Park.
Let our voice be heard, but let's do it in a good way to make our ancestors proud for us standing up for what we believe in. Thank you all. Ihaiska. Let's chant. Water is life. 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 Water is life.
So we're out here in solidarity with the Native people of Standing Rock and the Native people of this land to demand an end to the Dakota Access Pipeline. We got the Army Corps of Engineers, whose office is in this building, to order the construction of the pipeline to stop. It's very, very important for African people to stand in solidarity with Native people of this land because we are both colonized nations within the United States Empire. We are in this together. Our freedom is tied to each other. So if they get free, we get free, and if we get free, they get free. We must show up in solidarity with them, and we must get this pipeline to stop.
Spanned all over the eastern hemisphere of our great North America. There is a separation of military and police authority for a reason, but Sheriff Kyle Kirkmeyer does not care about that. He only cares about what it is that he's doing out there and the money that he's receiving from the governor or emergency assistance funding.
everybody needs water. Water is life. I truly believe that. You can't drink oil. You can't consume it. You can't eat it. Your children can't either. I mean, if you have some superpower or an alien, maybe, but I don't think that's happening. So I truly believe that we need water. We need water more than oil. That's something that's kept us sustainable and alive for years, generations. Oil hasn't. It's a new thing.
Next up is a show where we interviewed Lindsey Grayzel, a local filmmaker who created The Reluctant Radical. Her movie follows Ken Ward, an activist so concerned about climate change that he engaged in a variety of direct actions, from gas station protests to shutting off a valve that's part of a North American oil pipeline. Lindsey herself was arrested by police even though she was recording that latter action from outside of a fence. She had her video confiscated, and it took a year and a half to get it back. She talks about her experiences making the movie and what happened when the police stepped in. Part of this show includes clips of Lindsey from the early 2000s when she volunteered with Flying Focus. We're very pleased that she agreed to let us use clips from her movie to make this show.
I was going, hey, wait a minute, the world's in collapse here and we're not doing anything about it. Climate change is just dealt with as if it was any other discrete environmental issue. For years, we said we can solve this if everyone would just put the right light bulbs and buy a Prius. Liven your morning up, maybe. What we really needed to be doing was, from the very beginning, raising hell.
All right, grab your rest. When you were videoing Ken riding his canoe to stop the icebreaker from leaving, and at the gas station where he was accused of trespassing in a Santa suit while telling people about the harms of climate change, were you personally confronted by law enforcement?
Not, I mean, confronted is not the right word. In the case of the Fennica, they had this safety zone that they had established that no one could be within, I think, 100 yards. In the case of the gas station direct actions, I had a long lens with me. I was fully expecting them to tell me that I had to leave the property and I would have to go to the sidewalk and film from the sidewalk. But they never did, and so I was just right there filming. For when he shut off the Trans Mountain Pipeline, that was obviously a much bigger deal. We knew that. So I had a cinematographer with me that day, Carl Davis, and the two of us were waiting at the site where Ken said he was going to be. He drove up in his car. We followed him across a field, and then there was a big fence where Ken cut the fence, the chain that was keeping the fence together. We just filmed everything from on the outside of this fence, and it was far away and through a fence. It was kind of a drag as a filmmaker, but I was maintaining my boundaries. And then the cops, we had to wait for the cops. Eventually they came, and we were filming him, hoping to get the scene of him being, handcuffed and put in the back of a police car. And instead the cop said, you're on private property on that field, you got to leave or you're going to be arrested for trespass. So we did. We picked up and we walked back across the field to our car. And then when we got there, there was another police officer there who started asking very leading questions, at which point my training kicked in and I said, am I being, detained? And he said, yes, you are. So I stopped answering questions and they arrested us and charged us not only with misdemeanor trespassing, but with the same 3 felonies that they charged Ken with, which was burglary, sabotage, and assemblage of saboteurs.
That's all we have for part 1 of the 27th Busiversary. I'm Dan Handelman of Flying Focus Video Collective. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm PC Perry. I want to encourage you to get involved and support Flying Focus Video Collective by calling us at 503-239-7456. Our show times are at 503-321-5051. You can also write us at FFVC at flyingfocus.org.
We're an all-volunteer nonprofit group which is funded almost entirely by donations, for which people sometimes request DVDs or online copies of our shows. It's time for you to see who's behind the scenes today. We have Moss, Tom, Jim, and out here in the studio, we have Daniel, and we also have Diane. You too can make programs through Open Signal Portland Community Media by taking classes, then borrowing their equipment and studios.
Thanks for watching. Tune in next week at this same time for part 2 of the Video Bus.